Welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast about sharing ideas, discussing the business of making, and connecting with the maker community. Your hosts are Alex Adams, an engineer turned furniture maker of Type A Furniture, and an alien pretending to be a DIY craftsman, Alex Duffey of Duffey Woodcraft. This is Whatcha Makin.
Good afternoon, makers. This is Alex with Duffey Woodcraft. Welcome to Whatcha Makin, a show about connecting with the maker community and just all around what's happening and what you're making.
Oh, is that me? Okay.
I have no idea.
This is Alex Adams at Type A Furniture. Yeah, I'm here too.
Do you just want to redo that?
No, I think it's funny.
Okay. Well, how's it going, Alex?
Great. You can tell I'm on top of everything, which is why if you go to patreon.com/whatchamakinshow, you definitely will find stuff, and I'm not stalling because I haven't updated what's on there.
What?
I know.
You know, it's been a week. You've had a week.
Yeah,
And
school getting out definitely makes it challenging.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not in school. My son getting out of school and having him home, asking to do a million different things.
Yeah, I could see that. It's so funny you were talking about the school getting out, and I'm like, man, that's really early. But I guess when I was a kid, it was like mid-June, and now it's like mid-May. When did schools get out so early?
Well, I know that. I mean, they kind of coincide with like the agriculture in the local area, right? Of like kids getting out so they can go help the family way back when. So I don't know if that schedule is a little bit different in your region or not.
Well, Minnesota too. They always added extra days, I think, for snow days, even though we never got snow days.
Right, naturally,
because
because
everywhere.
Yeah, they clean it up within like the span of a few hours or a day, even though it's like enough to completely shut down a city in the South.
Yeah, well, I mean, I literally had our school bus had a plow blade on the front of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is
It
so
was
redneck.
optional. Yeah, it was optional, but it was so there when we needed it.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we don't have that. That's
You should.
insane. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now they've ruined it with the online learning, so fortunately our school district, they still actually get the day off. But my brother's kids, they're in Omaha, so my understanding is that they don't really have snow days, you just have like online learning days. So
cool.
they've taken that. No, it's not cool because they've taken away the magic of snow days from the children.
Magic.
Snow days are meant to be enjoyed.
Though I do have to say,
right
did
now.
you ever watch the movie Snow Day?
I did watch the movie Snow Day. I only watched it a couple of times, so I didn't watch it on repeat.
I just remember it being like, that would be the perfect day as a child. It sounded amazing.
One thing that I remember, their snow igloo fort or whatever, where they had like their that they like dug out. Like I tried so hard to recreate that, and it was so difficult to get a snow pile that was big enough and wasn't already like compacted hard enough to be able to actually dig into, because you could get really big snow piles where they were like clearing out parking lots or whatever, but it was already like crammed in so dense that you couldn't really dig into those. So I did make an igloo, like not like the blocks igloo, like compact down a pile and then dig into it, so it was enough for me to be in. So that was as far as I got with that.
Well, and actually, speaking of snow and snow igloos and everything, it's kind of funny. In Minnesota, we have a betting system that goes on how long the snow pile at Mall of America's parking lot will last. And I'm just thinking about how school's just getting out, and generally it's right around this. So I just looked it up, and it was about a week ago that the snow pile was officially gone from the the parking lot. So
I could see that being like almost a year-round thing with how big of a parking lot they have. I'd believe that it would last a while. Yeah.
Well, with that said,
We have the technology faster.
let's talk about what we're making. let's see. So this week is for me is a big week of making stuff for Goonies Week, which is in 2 weeks from now. I have a whole bunch of if you let me stop. For people who don't know what the Goonies are, the Goonies is a 1980s film about children and doing their shenanigans with pirate ships and everything else like that. A horrible recap of movies, but it
And
was
Babe Ruth,
filmed.
right?
And Babe Ruth, yep. It was filmed in Astoria, Oregon, which is where one of my retail partner stores is at. And the 40th anniversary of the film release is coming out in 2 weeks. And so the town is doing a huge event around it. A bunch of the cast is coming to the events. The Goonies house, which is like the main house that they were trying to save in the film, is still there and is owned by a Goonies fan who is doing these big events. So it's going to be a big week. So I've been making a ton of extra stuff like Goonies signs and bottle openers, and I even have been breaking out with the laser, doing some leather wallets, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's all Goonies related.
Did you make any like fake treasure or anything like that, or like treasure boxes?
I have a treasure box I've been working on. It's just those actually, I've never made one before, and I realized it's a lot of effort for just a treasure box. So
Now,
I'm
are you
okay.
talking like something that's like handheld size, or are we talking like treasure box?
Like this big. So like think of like a keepsake box, like something you can put like a bunch of like baseball cards and things and stuff in.
Okay.
But yeah, not tiny, just but a good like watermelon size box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So is Sean Astin going to be there?
He is, and his band.
Oh, he has a band?
He has a band, and if you've never heard him sing, you are better for it.
Well, I learned two things. What style of a band is it?
Folk.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is definitely a different style of genre that I'm not into.
Is it like the like 2010s hipster folk where there's like 20 musicians?
No, it's like 6 guys and one of them plays a washboard.
So like, is it like almost like a little more Appalachian kind of like folk band?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll not listen to it on your recommendation.
Good choice.
I'm sure Sean Astin he's still rolling in the Lord of the Rings money, so he's probably doing just fine, just whatever he wants. So,
he's
probably
I'm sure
just having a great time.
And they announced earlier this year that he signed up for Goonies 2, so they're apparently going to make a sequel.
Yeah, I keep on forgetting that they were going to make a sequel to that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually excited about the remake of Lilo and Stitch that they have coming out. It's not a sequel; it's just the live action version, which Disney is hitting the live action versions of things hard. So I loved Lilo and Stitch and watching that and watching the TV series that they had of that. I don't know if you did you?
Oh yes, I watched them all.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'm very curious to see how this turns out. So we actually did buy tickets to go to that movie. So I hope it's good because it does. It's one of those like underrated Disney movies. Just kind of like what are some of the other ones like Treasure Planet, like Prince of Egypt, like
Titan AE.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioning that one. Atlantis. My son actually watched the sequel to that
Atlantis.
one today. The sequel is like it's obviously one of those like direct to film versions, just kind of like how they did like Aladdin and some of those other like '90s ones where they changed the voice characters and the animation is like not quite as like refined.
They keep giving us bad adaptions. Like nobody asked for a Snow White adaptation. Nobody asked for a Cinderella. I want a Atlantis live action adaptation. Like that would be a killer movie.
That would be a really dope movie. But yeah, it's interesting. It seems like they've swapped like doing direct to movie sequels for like live action remakes. Is kind of like I think they're both in that same camp where it's like not quite what the fans really want. At least the
Yeah.
hardcore fans of those, specific fandoms.
Yep.
But,
I definitely. So my wife has never seen Lilo and Stitch, so we watched it actually last night. We had watched it because we also want to go see it in theaters, and so, or at least I do. And so, yeah, she watched it for the first time. She had some interesting thoughts on it,
well,
especially
she
because
can keep
my
those
wife and
to herself.
no, well, like my wife and I have been through. We were foster parents for a while, so we've been through the system. And man, the
Oh,
representation of the
oh.
foster system in that movie is definitely not accurate.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, especially for, gosh, because when was it released? It was like,
2002.
oh yeah, because I remember they actually had to redo one of the scenes
Yes, they did.
because of it was an airplane flying by
And
buildings.
buildings.
Yeah, so they
Yep.
had to they had to swap that out with the spaceship to make it less
A
on the
spaceship in
nose.
mountains.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
anyway, oh, what was I lost my train of thought entirely. Oh well.
Well, what
All
have
we
you been
know is
making
that
this week?
yeah, that's a good transition. I have been I have been soda blasting church pew hymnal holders, I guess. Those are the little brackets on the back sides of the old church pews that hold like the Bibles and the little hymnal books that people would use to flip through and, sing the same hymns. I mean, probably off key, but they sang them. Um, so I'm probably about 2/3 of the way through of soda blasting those, and I ran into an interesting issue when it came to rain because I do have a um, it's a Wagner painting tent kind of thing, so it's not like an actual tent. So the front is like mesh, so when it rains, you can get moisture and crap in there. So it's kind of been touch and go on when I can use it. With it starting to be kind of like the rainier part of the year. So I'm getting close. I mean, the pile of hymnal holders that is sitting behind me is dwindling. So I'm getting there. So
It's
that,
like I can see your dust collection this week.
yeah, yeah, all that stuff just all outside. So then I've been recycling the media, which is one of the reasons I did it inside of the tent, so I could actually sweep it up and reuse the media. Um, so that makes it easier because for a 50-pound bag, for most media, it's like 50 or $60, I think. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, it depends on what you get, but they're all kind of in that similar price range. So when I wasn't doing that soda blasting, um, since we had mentioned my son getting out of school, we've been doing a lot of 3D prints lately. So he's been printing a lot of just different things, different fidgets. He's been doing a lot of the what are they called? They're on the strings for the sweatshirt. They're like little sweatshirt string stoppers. So it slides on there, and then you tie the knot underneath. So then it's kind of like, just like how you have the little gibbets on your Crocs that you can put on to have like little accessories or whatever. It's the same thing, but with like the drawstring stopper. I think that's the better term for it. So he's been doing that recently and having a lot of fun with it. And he's been wanting to get a 3D scanner, um, just to scan things because I did a 3D print of myself when I was 3D scanned at Workbench Con by 3D DIY Dave. So
Mhm.
I did two poses for that. One of them was like kind of like almost like a running pose, and then the other one was like holding a plank. So I had to hold the plank for about a minute while Dave like did the full scan. But I think what he has is like what is it, an Einstar Vega or something like that, which is like, I think those are like $1,800. So we're not going to be spending that much on it. So the route that I'm probably going to take is the scans that you can do with your phone. So you can use the LiDAR feature, or it can do just what is it called? Photogrammetry or something like that, where it just stitches the images together to get a 3D image. So you just move the phone around and it takes the images and stitches them together. So I'll probably go with one of those options because um, I don't think we'll be able to do too much with the free tiers of that, but I'm fine with paying. I think it's like $180 a year or something like that. So whatever that is monthly or whatever. So it's like that's way less than the like physical handheld ones, and I'm sure that the hardware for like the handheld ones will probably get cheaper over time. So it's probably a better route because I don't need the level of detail for the stuff that he wants to scan because he just wants to scan things and like 3D print stuff. So, well, I've got some ideas on some of that stuff too, since I'm doing the cross country and track coaching. Because one thing I'm interested in is like um, doing essentially, sometimes how you get trophies with like the little like generic person on there. It's like, okay, like maybe we can get a scan of someone who's actually like part of that. I don't know if we'll actually do anything like that, but like you can make your own trophy or something like that that might be fun. So I'm just trying to do stuff that make it fun for the kids that are participating. So
That's a great idea.
yeah, so I'm trying to like think of ways to utilize the 3D scanning um, for more than just play, but play makes it fun and uses your imagination to get these ideas to pop up. Because if my son wasn't harping on me about 3D scanners, I probably wouldn't be thinking about that stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So that's so anyway. I think did I say the 3D app that I was probably going to use? Polycam.
Mm-mm.
Okay, Polycam is the one
Polycam?
that I kind of like settled on. There's a couple other ones. I can't remember the names of them, but that's the one that I'm probably going to use. I talked to Dave a little bit about that, and he's like, "Yeah, that's probably the best one for just doing a phone scan." So that's kind of what I've been making lately. So it's been a little bit more of like design and execute on stuff that's kind of already been in motion with the church pews. Whenever that finally gets done, I'm sure there'll be more things dragging on with that project, but that's all I got going on right now.
Nice.
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it!
Oh boy, do I have good stuff for this one. So I've had some interesting things this past week. Um, so the weekend where I went to the Maker meetup, had a great time there. When I came back, I had forgotten my door open to my shop, which is in my basement. And so I go down there. I had some of my chisels, I had them in a box because I had them out for some other stuff and I was just moving them around. So sometimes I'll put stuff in a box and I'd set it on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going for something else. Then I look in the box and there's cat poop in there. So
Oh no.
yeah, and we'll just say that they didn't have their full helping of fiber for this. Um, so it only affected two chisels. It was the flat back side of one of them. It made it slightly rusty since there was contact on there. It's like it was like the 1.25" chisel or inch chisel, but it was like far away from the edge. It was closer to the handle, but it didn't touch the handle at all. So that one was easy. I just put a little evapor rust on that, and it's like you leave a little bit of that kind of black residue from evapor rust, and it's cosmetically it looks different, but it's fine. So I was cool with that. Now the other one is the more challenging one, which fortunately, again, it's a chisel that like I don't use, like it's the size that I don't use a lot. I think it was like I want to say it was like the 1/8 inch or like quarter maybe. And that one, it was actually on the handle itself. And these chisels are from, I still don't remember how to pronounce it. File. Pfeil is how it's spelled.
File.
Yeah, is it file?
File.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so anyway, because you can, I think the only place you can buy them is Woodcraft.
Yeah.
But anyway, so when you buy those chisels are just straight wood. There's no finish on them. So had there been finish on those, it probably would have eaten away at the finish a little bit with contact, but it would have been a little bit easier to deal with. But since these didn't have finish on them, you get a little bit of leaching into the handle. And this is on the section that's like between the wood and the actual metal portion of itself. So it's like maybe a 2-inch long portion leading up to the metal portion of the handle where you've got the whatever that little collar ring is that goes
Mm-hmm.
onto the chisel itself. Um, so I sprayed it with some diluted bleach, and that got rid of the smell. There's still some discoloration on there. I had talked to some colleagues about other options. I know I can. Other recommendations were vinegar and then using the pet stain remover that is typically used for like carpet. Because the only thing that I'm concerned about at this point is what has like leached under that little collar area, if at all. Because I don't think, because I can't remember what style of chisels there are. Because there's the socket and the tang style of like
Mm-hmm.
attaching to the handle, and I could probably look it up and find out which one it is, but I think it's a tang style, which is not like as easily removed. So it makes it a little bit
Right.
more dicey on trying to like inspect this kind of thing. So it might be something where I just spray and pray and just
I think you'll be fine with that. Like, honestly, as a cat owner, like I know the consistency we're talking about here. Like, I wouldn't be too worried about stuff getting in there, other because it wasn't number one, it was number two, and so
right.
yeah,
Well, yeah,
I think you're okay.
yeah, it was because one thing I don't remember. I don't know exactly how long it was on there, so I don't know how much it leached in. So it is because I do know for a fact when I got the chisels that they're made out of elm, which I can't remember if that one's if it's like red oak where it's like it's almost like straws going through or not. I don't think it is because I don't think there are many that are
No,
like red
no,
oak.
Elm is it's a closed pour.
It's a closed port. Okay, yeah. So that makes me feel better then because if it was red oak, which would be questionable anyway, um, it would be terrible because it would have like soaked it up as much as possible, like that like cartoon straw sipping all the way up.
For
I'm making
those
you uncomfortable,
watching,
aren't you?
no, I'm for those watching on the YouTube recording of this. There's a fly that keeps going after Alex, and it just landed on his forehead for a minute and then moved to his cheek. And I just want to reach over and smack.
Oh, is it like the gosh? Wasn't it was the VP debate a long time ago where there was the fly that like landed on Mike Pence's head?
Yeah,
It's probably the same fly.
it probably is.
Yeah. It's been flying around here. It's been bugging me. Gosh. Yeah. Anyway, that's all the stuff that I've been. Oh wait, no, I have one other thing, which I didn't actually break it. The garden beds that we have in our backyard have kind of worn down because they were. Did I tell you about the garden beds that we have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that are like they're like old crates and they're falling apart. So I just need to tack them together in order to get like another year out of them. So that's just kind of like on my plate of stuff that I need to fix because I was actually out in the yard today putting out more grass seed and things so that I could get to all of that. So hope someday I'll have a nice lawn and all of that stuff will be done, but eventually I'll get there.
Yeah. I was going to say I had nothing for this segment, but after thinking about it, I do. I had to replace a couple of yard or lawn hoses today because I made the dumb mistake of leaving them outside over the winter and they burst.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to go water the plants for the first time because it's funny you mentioned getting into the rainy season for you. Our rainy season has ended and now we're in our dry season. So
No.
I'm at the point where I have to start watering my plants. And I went out there today and was like, oh, there's more water coming out the side of the hose than out the end of the hose. So yeah, so I had to replace some hoses today.
Yeah.
Which hoses are a lot more expensive in my opinion than they should be.
They are very expensive, especially like, and I got the good kind too that are like really thick walls because
Shut up and take my money.
Sorry.
Okay, well we're just moving on then.
No, I was trying to cue it up. Go ahead, finish your statement. I apologize.
No, yeah, they like because like the really cheap. I've had the really cheap ones that are like the expanding ones that
Yeah.
are compact and collapse, but those ones just for as nice as they are to like get them compacted down, they just don't last at all. Like at best,
No,
maybe a
they don't.
year. So
Uh-huh.
they'd be more of like a disposable item than something that you would have year round.
Yeah,
So,
and that's
or I
actually
guess
the
multiple seasons.
types we had that I had to get rid of was the
Yeah,
expanding ones. So,
yeah.
but I mean, they do take my money, so
Shut up and take my money.
Oh, there you go.
there you go. So let's talk about what we've been selling. We talked about this on the last show. This past weekend was my big UFO Fest of the season. So
Hmm.
this is well, up until this last Christmas, this was my largest show of the year. And then this past Christmas, I had a couple of bigger shows, which was awesome. But so this year, the UFO Fest, it was their 25th anniversary. And because of that, they expanded it from just on Saturday to Friday, Saturday for the market, which made me really nervous because they weren't doing a ton of advertising. And, uh, if people are going to come out Saturday, they're not necessarily going to also come out Friday to buy and do stuff. So I was very concerned. But so we got there, set up on Friday. For one, I have a habit of always bringing way more than I need. I just bring everything I have and take it out. And so we had 2 hours to set up, and it took us 2.5 hours to set up. So it was, and I was getting frustrated, and because I was under timelines and everything, but it worked. It went very well. So Friday I made. So I always kind of go by: did I make my booth fee? Did I make my cost? And so on. So I made my booth fee on Friday along with the cost of the hotel that we stayed in Friday night, because it's about 2 hours away from our home. So I wasn't going to at 8 p.m. drive 2 hours home and then
Yeah.
at 6 a.m. drive 2 hours back the next morning. It's just, I didn't want to do that. So Friday I made all of that plus extra. And then Saturday was phenomenal. So last year, on that, sorry, I'm just going off last year's to compare to this year. I did about double for year over year, as far as financial goes, of budgets. And
Nice.
what I found was really interesting was Friday, I think, was the diehards. Friday were the people that came out, that come to this every year and were going to be there to party all year round.
Is it
Because
normally on Fridays?
it's not, but I think it's because they're the
Okay.
people who were like, we're going to the fest and we're gonna, make it the whole fest and be there the whole
Oh,
weekend type
okay.
thing. So they use that day to come and get their shopping done early, because Friday all of my sales were big. I sold large items on Friday.
Mhm.
I sold a lot of items in one sale. And so I'd say my average, according to Square, my average sale was over $70 on Friday. Where on Saturday, was when they do the parade and is more of the like family day, my average sale was down to $18. So it was a drastic difference because I had a lot of $5 sales of my magnets, or $7 for a bookmark and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to see. Friday was this, everyone was there to spend a lot of money, and then Saturday was like a trickle. But that trickle adds up when you
Right.
have so many people.
How are
'Cause
your credit card processing fees? Are they pretty high, relatively speaking, for those smaller transactions, or
no,
are
so
you okay?
Square is a flat 3.5%, and
Oh, okay.
I don't eat that. I pass that on, unfortunately, just
Oh, okay.
because small business, I don't have the income to eat that constantly.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, I post that when there it says, cash I don't charge a fee, but if you do credit card I have to add 3.5%. So
So
in Oregon, oh, go
how
ahead.
much was cash versus card? Was it like 50-50, or was it heavy one way or another?
So my record shows that cash equaled out to be about 40%, and then
Okay.
60% was card,
Oh, so
which is
do you just record the transaction in Square separately as like a receipt kind of thing?
yes,
Okay.
yep. That way I can kind of keep track of all my sales and everything I do.
Okay.
Um, because I like to, I'm a numbers guy, analytics during the day. So I like to kind of go through and figure out, what was my average sale? What was my best selling item?
Hmm.
What the best hour was. So that maybe next year, if I know that around these couple of hours were the busiest, maybe I need a helper for a couple of extra hours.
Hmm.
So it's just something that I'm continuously trying to improve on. But like my wife was there, she was helping me out. And speaking of the busy hours, so the first 2 hours of the day on Saturday were pretty dead, and then they did the parade, and that lasted for about 45 minutes or so, and then I don't remember anything for 4 hours. Like it was just a whirlwind of customer after customer.
I thought you were just
Uh,
going to say that some guy in a black suit came and flashed you with a little red light.
I had that happen too, multiple times. There were
Okay.
lots of men in black there. Lots of people were dressed up. And yeah, a couple of them took out their nebulizers and beep beep,
Yep.
asked if I still had to pay, and I said yes. So um, but yeah, it was a great time. It was a phenomenal weekend. Uh, I'm sad it's over. I can't wait to go back and do it again. Uh, I was lucky enough to on Saturday towards the end of the day, the guy who I was like, man, I wish I wasn't vending so I could go see him talk. He actually apparently was walking around and doing some shopping because he came by the booth and I saw him and got a selfie with him. His name's
Oh,
Jeremy
wonderful.
Corbell. He's a investigative reporter in the whole UFO scene, and he's working with Congress and all our representatives to try and get the DoD to declassify stuff.
Hmm.
So he's a pretty cool dude, and I like the fact that he's doing it the right way of saying let's go the right way instead of just leaking stuff everywhere.
Yeah, where you're doing it in a very legitimate manner, for lack of a better term, where you can be
Yeah,
taken seriously.
right. Because whether you believe in UFOs or not, you have to admit that there are a lot of things that we can't explain, and that definitely a lot of that could be our own stuff. So we want to make sure that we're being not being or endangering our servicemen and women by announcing things or having things leaked that shouldn't be to our
Right.
adversaries.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. So I like that they're doing it the right way, and so I like to
Hmm.
support him. And actually, I had messaged him on Instagram saying, "Hey, come by my booth and you can have anything for free." And I reminded him of that when he was there, and he's like, "No, I want to." He took my card. He's like, "I want to buy something from you, but I only have a carry-on, and I already filled it."
Hmm.
So yeah, but over the weekend, magnets. So I did a lot of UFO related magnets. So $5. Those were my number one seller. My number two seller were figurines, which are little UFO and Sasquatch figurines that like for $10 that sit on your desk, made out of
Are those
walnut.
2-dimensional or 3-dimensional?
Um, I cut them out on the CNC, so they are an inch thick, but they're more of like a shadow silhouette style.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
So there's not necessarily depth to them.
right. There's not
Gotcha.
necessarily depth. They're just an hour. Or they're an inch thick, but they're not like rounded or 3D
Right.
item. They're
Yeah.
2D.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah. So those were my second item. Third item were my UFO lamps. Those were my big ticket items. And then fourth, I would say would be were the signs. It was tied with one other thing, but signs were the other one, which is I say signs. It's like wall art. So things that I had made that had like a UFO carved into wood, or a saying like "Take me to your leader," that kind of stuff.
Wonderful.
Um, yeah, yeah. So it was a great time. Lots of things sold. I sold about a third of what I took, which tells you how much more I made than I needed to. But it was a lot of fun. And so I'm really excited that everything went. And now I get to take a break for 2 weeks until Goonies. So
Nice.
that's what I'm selling.
Nice. Random. So when you said the "Take Me to Your Leader," it made me think of the Mars Attacks movie. Did you enjoy that movie?
I did. It's hokey and it's weird, but that was the point, right?
Exactly. Like, it's a really fun movie, and it's also one that Jack Black is in, which I didn't realize that until a while back.
That is right. That is one of his first
Hmm.
ones. I had totally forgotten about that.
Yeah, that was very early on in his career. I don't know how
Yeah.
early, but yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah, he is in this one. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I just remember them switching the heads of the
Yeah, the
dog and
dog
the
and the
lady, the
lady. Yeah,
first lady.
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yep.
That was great.
Great
Yeah.
comedy.
Oh yeah, I love that one. Yeah. So yeah, what I have for sales is it wasn't actually me, it was my son making sales.
Oh.
So this past weekend was um high school graduation, so my wife's half brother, he was graduating high school, and so my son, like, he likes to bring his toys and fidgets and stuff, and he sold several of them to um the I don't know if the like parents bought them or the kids. I don't know. The kid's a hustler. He knows how to sell stuff. Like he knows that like, okay, I can sell this and make money. So I don't know if he like talked to the kids and like, okay, go to your parents and get some money, or if the parents are like, oh yeah, we'll get something for them. So he sold a few 3D prints while he was there, and with swim team coming up for this summer, it's every weekend for like a month and a half. I think there's like 5, maybe 6 swim meets. So I'm thinking about this, like, okay, you see all the same people. We always set up a little tent. I think I might just set up a little bit, like a little table, a couple of like little baskets with a little sign with like how much it is for, like, we're talking like $5 or $10 size
Yeah.
items, not like big stuff. So like especially the croc gibbets, some of those what did we say the official term was for the little string stopper thingies? Whatever that was. Well, we'll have a few of those there, and then maybe some other like fidget type toys that are relatively small, I think. So I think if we just get a couple of baskets and just have everything in the basket be that dollar amount and just keep it simple and streamlined, I think that we'll be fine. Like, and I'm not overly worried about like people getting upset about him like selling stuff. It's like, okay, you can tell us not to, it's fine. Like, but if it gives your kids something to do, I'm sure parents would pay to keep their children occupied at these things, because it's like you they only do like a few events depending on the kid, and it's mostly like hanging out and playing a lot of the day. So it is a fairly captive audience in that term, or in that sense, that they have to be there and around. And if we're in the right spot and you get a little bit of traffic there, like kid running back and forth and seeing something several times and bugging their parent to get something for them that's only like $5 or $10, that might be the right price to silence their children for just a little while, and hopefully it doesn't break until they get home.
One
So
of my favorite local guys that sells locally at the fairs that I see regularly is Koa and Co. And it is a mother and son business. The son is, I think he's 9 or 10, around that age. And it's Koa and Co. And then he has a sign that says, "This is for my college fund," and it's his business. He 3D prints and makes everything, and then he sets up the table and stuff. She's just there as the parents.
right.
But and yeah, he makes bank with that stuff. And he's the only one I've seen that actually brings his little bamboo B1 or the small A1 or whatever the smallest
Hmm.
one is. And he brings that and powers it up with a power pack and has it printing there on the table. And that draws so many people in to see it get made.
So we
Um,
actually, so for the science fair, we essentially did just that for his project. It was like what we did for the experiment for the science fair was basically how temperature affects 3D printing quality. Because you've got the nozzle temperature, the bed temperature,
mhm.
and so we did a couple of things. And I did the exact same thing that you were saying, where I had a battery pack that I could power it while I was there. So if we end up doing, let me slap this fly on my face. Oh no, he's gone. Never mind. The fly is still around for those who are only listening via audio. Anyway, I can take that with me in 3D print. I won't take that with me for the swim meet because water. But potentially doing like the farmer's market thing. That would probably be that, and the laser would be two things that I would probably bring to draw people in, like you were saying, because when, especially with the A1, since that open bed slinger design, it's much more enticing, because you can see it. That lends itself well to drawing people in. Um, and the laser does as well, because it's move. It's an open gantry system that people can actually
Yep.
see move. So engraving stuff on the spot is also probably a good idea. But honestly, if we don't end up having the time to do that farmer's market, I think doing the stuff at the swim meets is probably going to be like, if we can at least do that, I'll be happy, because I think
Yeah.
that'll yield better results than the farmer's market, just because of like the audience that you have, and the fact that like it's not really like a vendor thing, so you don't really have to like compete against the other vendors for like, people that are looking to
Hmm.
buy stuff. Because even if you aren't selling the same stuff, you're kind of competing for the same money that's in someone's wallet.
Absolutely.
So it's just one of those things where it's just figuring out which environment is actually worth spending the time on. So if I have to choose between the two, I'll probably at least do that one. So that's what we've kind of had on our side of things when it comes to selling items.
Nice.
I got my eye on you.
Well, moving along here, I've been busy throughout the week, so I haven't done a ton of looking around in the community, but I definitely have found a couple people I wanted to highlight. First of all, and this is, nepotism? No, maybe? I don't know. My best friend in the maker community is Kara of Andes. She's phenomenal, and I have been enjoying her content the last 2 weeks because she started her market season for the summer markets season. She does Wednesday farmers markets, and I love her content around it because it's always like fun setup stuff, and then she does all like what she finds from the other makers and other booths there. So like
Mm.
it's always very hunger inducing watching her stuff because it's she'll post like some really good food that she got or from a vendor, or
Mm-hmm.
the fresh produce that's out this week. And so I love that she's highlighting. She doesn't very rarely highlight her own stuff. She's highlighting other people's, and I
Mm.
do find that a lot is really good. So I've been enjoying watching that and going, ooh, man, I really want that. Or, ooh, those strawberries look good. I guess I got to go get some strawberries now.
But you got to be like Iron
Um,
Man and say, just set it next to me. I don't like to be handed things, right?
yeah.
From the first Iron Man movie.
Yep.
We
Do you
believe
know
in you,
why
Iron Man?
do you know why he doesn't like that, by the way?
Oh, does it have to do with something with like legal documents or something?
It's PTSD.
Really?
So it's from his time as being captured, because the person he was working with and handing him tools the whole time then was murdered as he was escaping. And so it's PTSD.
Oh.
So after that, he never likes to be handed anything. And the first person to actually hand him something other than Pepper, who he loves, was his father in Endgame. That was the only other person
Oh,
on screen
right,
to hold
right.
him something. So,
Yeah, I when you had said that, my second guess would have my guess after Pepper would have been Peter at some point, but I didn't know that
mhm.
off the top of my head. But yeah, that
Yep.
makes sense, because he had that scene where they went back in time.
Yep.
Sorry for the
So
spoiler for Endgame.
also, just for those, I'm a nerd, but yeah, I like those kind of bits of trivia. So, anyways, so besides that, other content, I'm gonna again pump my own stuff. I released a video about a Vevor drill press review, so that was my little contribution this week. And I also, it wasn't just the drill press review. I did a whole bunch of propagation stations / bud vases as part of
Mm.
that video. That was the weekly project because I wanted to talk about. That was one of the first products I was making at vendor markets because they're very simple, and they're something that, one, is a good seller, but two is is a good learning project because you learn how to make correct or proper cuts, you learn how to sand properly, you learn how to do the measuring and drilling the right way on the drill press. And so there's a lot of techniques that you learn as a first-time woodworker, making projects in bulk doing that. So I wanted to highlight that project. And then two other people I saw this week, Honey Badger Woodworks on YouTube, did I think it was about a 15-minute video. She has been around in the community for about 12 years doing woodworking, specifically cabinetry and cabinetry woodworking. And so she did a video as she was doing her latest build and just talked about all of the things that she doesn't hear people talk about in the community that like are failures or mistakes that people make constantly over and over again that we all don't like to talk about because we don't want to highlight our own insecurities or issues. So it was a great video of going through like, yeah, we make this mistake and this is how we learn from it or fix it. And so I really enjoyed that video as far as just being open and honest, and that's kind of what I look for in my content. I like that honesty aspect. I thought that was really great. And lastly, Grossman Woodworking and DIY is a new woodworker. He launched his business 1 month ago, and he just did a video today talking about his first month as a woodworker and specifically owning a business and starting a woodworking business. And so he talked about like the things he's struggling with trying to get clients and all the regulatory stuff put together. He talked about the things he didn't see coming, like the fact that, this is something that I kind of disagreed with because I agree. I think, there are lots of us woodworkers, but he was like, I didn't see that there were going to be that many woodworkers around me. I'm like, well, there are. But and then he also talks about things like he was looking to upgrade. So he wanted to upgrade his sander and get a pop-up canopy for spray and finish because he was finding he was spraying finish on things that shouldn't be finished. So yeah, so it's a good video it was kind of fun seeing somebody start fresh and is documenting it from day one. Versus a lot of us that start a business for a few years and then become content creators or something like that. He's documenting it as he goes, and that's kind of a fresh take I haven't seen in a while. So I was enjoying seeing his videos and his struggles, but also how he's powering through those.
And what area was he at least initially focused? Is he more like cabinetry focused, more like trim carpentry?
Furniture focused. Yep.
Like freestanding furniture or like...
Yes.
Okay, okay. Gotcha.
Yep. And he's also very new to YouTube, so there's definitely a lot of growth, in my opinion, in videos because it is just a single camera setup and straight at the camera talking for 15 minutes with no cutaways or anything like that. So it is brand new content. So just know going into that video, if you are interested, it is just a very dry video, but it is it's very informational and good. It is a reminder, especially like for me, who's been a business now for 3 some odd years, of a lot of those struggles and going, oh yeah, I still deal with that. And I feel like it's just because I just have dealt with it for so long, but I could make it better if I resolved it. So yeah. So it was good. But yeah, that's what I've been finding in the community this week.
Yeah. So the first thing that I have is, it was like being there in person, like watching it live. The maker meetup is what I went to this past weekend as well. So
Super
that
jealous.
it was a lot of fun. So I went there on Friday evening to meet up with a few of the guys who had flown in early to be there because the formal event itself was Saturday from, I think, 11 to 3. Yeah, 11 to 3.
And those who don't know, this is the Midwest Maker Meetup.
Yeah, the Midwest Maker Meetup, sponsored, well, would it be sponsored, promoted by it, or hosted by AWP.
Hosted by another Whatcha
podcast. Yeah. So we met up. So like Jeff from Maker's Way, Stone from Onefinity, Max and is his wife named Melissa? I can't remember. Or is
I
it
don't know.
Alyssa? Something with an Issa at the end. I'm sorry. Who else was there? Nick Brim was there. Of course, all three of the AWP guys. Ed Mancini was there. I think that was just about everyone. There might have been another couple of people. So the original plan was to eat at the Raccoon Chicken place, which, for those who are not aware, there is a place where
I'm not aware.
so this place serves chicken, but like part of the entertainment is like raccoons that come up and like eat like the extra chicken or something like that. I can't remember what exactly the spiel is, but like
Wait, like
there's like
real raccoons?
yeah, act like raccoons that are like in the area, because this is like, so this is not in like a downtown area. This is like kind of in like a little bit of like a wooded area, so it's not like super urban. It's a little bit out of the
Okay.
way.
So wait a minute. So is this a place where you go and you order chicken and there happen to be raccoons there that people are feeding? Or is it a place that like this place puts out food to attract raccoons and
we
they
did so
catch and release them or something?
yeah. So I didn't get the full experience because we didn't end up eating there. It was like for
Okay.
whatever reason, it was going to be like a 2-hour wait or something like that. I don't know why.
Well, you got to catch those raccoons.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a Friday night, so I don't know. I don't know if it was something where they like kind of like toss them in like a certain area, but because like the dumpster that was around there, I think like had like the actual like locks and stuff that you would normally have for like, you know how they have them in like national parks or whatever to keep like
Yeah.
animals out. So like that stuff is locked down. So I don't know if it's just like some of the scraps that they like hawk out there that attracts the raccoons, but that's their like gimmick, is that you can see raccoons while you're eating. And there's literally a sign about like, don't come into this area because this is like where the raccoons come or something like that. And of course, like the sign was like halfway like flipped over or something, and we actually went into that area when we were trying to get like a seat or something like that. So apparently we upset some people because we were scaring off the entertainment for the evening.
How dare you?
I know, we're the worst. So anyway, we didn't get raccoon chicken. We went to some I can't remember, like Steamers or something like that. It was another chicken place that was like downtown. So we had those chicken sandwiches. They were great. And then we went back to Braden's shop, and he was lasering a couple of things, like some signs and other things for like giveaways they're doing, because they had a lot of different giveaways that were there. They gave away a whole ass Onefinity. I think it was a woodworker or something like that. I think it was the 32 by 32 size. So of course, like everyone who was there like jam packed that with tickets, including myself. There's some stuff from like Jimmy DiResta and some Total Boat stuff. What else was there?
Yeah, Braden had asked something from me. He wanted one of my UFO lights, but he asked like 2 days before the event, so I wasn't able to get it there.
Not even with a UFO shipping it? Like,
I don't have access to a UFO shipping it.
So we don't have instant transmission yet?
Not yet.
Dang it. Yeah, let me think. There were some like clamps and other things from like Rockler. Lots of good prizes that were there. So the next day, it was funny how you said that you didn't want to like drive home and then come back to your 2-day event. That's actually what I did for this one, because it was about the same distance. I was like, I don't want to pay for a hotel room and whatever, so I'll just head back. So I drove up the next day, and I think I got there like, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes early, and I helped them set up. So if you see any of the video or pictures of the Maker Meetup sign that's like slightly crooked, I was the one that set that up. Part of that was because I didn't have very many mounting points, and the other part of me was like, you know what? I don't care if it's not straight. You're probably going to get more comments by the fact that it's like 5 degrees off. So I'm just going to leave it and call it good. And Dan said that it was good, so it's fine.
Chaos agent, Alex Adams.
You know it. That wasn't the only chaos that I sowed while I was there. They had a bunch of AWP and Peter's Petrie ticket stickers, and I was going around and putting those on people's backs and butts throughout the event.
Of
So
course you were.
I probably got about like, I think I got about like 10 of them on Max Reed's butt. He was the main one that I hit up, but I got most people about like once or twice.
See, this is why your cat pooped on your chisels. It was payback from the universe.
Or maybe it's just like owner like pet kind of scenario where it's just shenanigans. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably my karma. But yeah, there was they did have food there. They had hot dogs and hamburgers, and Sutton was there grilling everything up for us. I did not recognize him without all of the PPE, so it was interesting seeing his whole face. I mean,
I've still never seen him. He's just a magical creature for me.
Yeah, he's a unicorn. Bring your shaky camera for when you see him.
Okay, I'll treat him just like my Bigfoot.
Exactly. He's just as rare, just as glorious to see in person, and magical and majestic. So anyway, when it came, so there were games and stuff that they had throughout the the event. So there was some Hammerschlagen that there was there. We had, it was like a little like plastic axe throwing station. That was kind of fun. It was kind of like, the dartboards that are like plastic, those ones.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like that, but they had like the axe shape, so it did decent. It was a little bit of fun. They did also have I can't remember the name of the photographer who was there. That was taking pictures, but there were a lot of fun pictures that they had. They did a group picture at the end of the event as well, where they had a good portion of people that were there. And one surprise that I had was I actually saw someone there and met up with someone who was someone that I knew from college that I didn't realize had listened to the show. So we had worked together at the surgical robotics lab in college, and so he does more stuff with like 3D printing and not quite as much with woodworking. But it was a fun surprise to see him there. And when it came down to the drawing of the prizes, there was some confusion amongst the hosts on when they were doing the drawing, because some were like, we're drawing at 2, and then Nick was like, we're drawing at 3, and then they're like, so they're like, we'll split the difference, we'll do it at like 2:30 or whatever. So of course everyone is like, super antsy, especially for the Onefinity, because that's like the big prize. Because there were probably like, I got a decent amount of tickets, because naturally I was like, even if I don't win it, the raffle is going towards St. Jude, so it's obviously going for a good cause. So it's like,
right,
if I don't win anything, it still ends up being for a good fundraiser. So spoiler, I did not get the Onefinity. It was someone who was actually local who had won the Onefinity. It was Living Lath Woodworks, or is it just Living Lath? So he won that, and then I did not come away empty-handed. I came home with one of the 3 custom signed posters from AWP. So that is a 1 of 3. So that's even more rare than people who have walked on the moon, because there's only 3 of these. So it's very, very rare. That the museum assessment of these was for $5,000. That's what you got to insure them for. I think it'll appreciate in value significantly over time. So,
well, especially once they kick Braden or somebody off, and you have a new host come in, so then it's, the old show.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll, it's just like any memorabilia. It becomes much more sought after when something changes. So yeah, once Dan gets canceled, it'll probably be worth a lot more.
I don't know. Companies keep trying and it never works. So I think he's going to be on there forever.
He's just like a cockroach that you can never get rid of. He'll last nuclear winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'll have to figure out where I want to hang up that poster. So it'll be wonderful to have that piece of memorabilia in the shop. But one thing that Max Reed was doing there, and he started releasing these, is he started doing super awesome interviews. So he did some interviews on site at the Maker Meetup. So he's released a couple of them as reels. I don't know if he's doing any. I don't think he's doing any of it on YouTube. I don't know if he does much on YouTube, but they're pretty wonderful. They're great. There's some physical comedy in there. Just some good stuff. Just pay attention to the whole scenery, because there's stuff going on in the background. There's other things, I wouldn't say like spoilers, but like maybe like Easter egg kind of things. So give them a couple watches and make sure that you pay attention to the background. And let's see, what else have I been watching? A lot of my stuff I've been watching on has been Instagram. So Tyler at Temecula Yard Games has put out a very strong opposition to raisins in trail mix. So there have been a few people who have jumped on that bandwagon, making some AI generated content with him and fighting against raisins. So there's some fun content going on.
Why is he picking on raisins?
He's like, who eats the raisins who are in the trail mix?
This guy. I like raisins.
I eat the M&Ms. Let's be honest.
See, I don't like M&Ms in the trail mix. Because trail mix, especially when, like, if I'm going hiking or if I'm out, camping or something, it's melted. But the M&Ms have melted by the time I get to the trail mix.
But it has a thin candy shell.
No, not when it's 95 to 100 degrees.
It gets that hot out there?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, during the summer here, we're regularly over triple digits.
Oh, man. Gosh, now I don't want to go out there. Here I thought the Pacific Northwest was like this like magical like rainy forest that's like, temperate, decent temperatures. But I mean, I don't want to swap that.
It's basically like the month of July. Don't come out here during the month of July and early August.
Fair enough. It's the same here, because like so here I'll drop some trivia on you. So the humidity, since we're primarily an agricultural state, we have a lot of corn. That's what we're known for, corn huskers. The humidity is affected by what is referred to as the corn sweat. So so the amount of humidity that comes off, so there is so much agricultural activity that what is planted where determines what the humidity is like in that area, because there's so much, because you've got to water it and it's pulling that water up through the plant itself,
right?
And then you have condensation on it in the morning and all that stuff. So you've got water that's affecting the humidity in the area. So yeah, we've got
those giant sprinkler things.
Yeah, irrigation pivots, which were invented
those
in
things.
Nebraska.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Those things. They pump a lot of water into the air. So.
Yeah, because we've got the Ogallala Aquifer. A lot of water gets pumped out from there onto the fields to water those. So it's interesting because growing up in a state where you have those in almost every single field, not every agricultural area is like that has like some kind of irrigation system. Some of them just go with what you get for rain, and that's what they use. So it was kind of interesting for me to see that in other regions that didn't have irrigation systems set up for their crops. But anyway,
Pacific Northwest, or at least the area I live in, is coastal affected. So like that's where we get our moisture, but during the summer it's super dry.
Well, it's kind of like what you get off of the Great Lakes. How that affects their weather as well. They've got the similar scenario on that. So anyway, peeling that back all the way from us going on a tangent about raisins and hiking and climate and things. Other stuff that I've been seeing, a few colleagues went to a Friends of Carhartt meetup. So Kamani was on there, Advanced Stray Design, Joni Sprague, Lindsay at Woodbrain, I know, was there. I think there was a few other people who were there that work with Carhartt. So there was some fun content that they had out of that. I'm sure there's probably a little bit more coming out. And then one other one that I've seen, I don't think he actually posted. I think it was just in his stories. Brandon at BXC Woodworks, he made a beautiful slab table, and he made it's a black base out of it. So it's like, you know how you have like the two rectangular sets of legs? So he made those out of wood, and then another rectangular set that goes the other direction, that goes like the length of the table, if you can kind of imagine that. But anyway, that's what he made. So I want to say that the base was made out of ash, but it's black. I can't remember when looking at that close up if it was ash, but I think it was that material. But it was a really nice slab table. It turned out really great. So he's got some other tables that are that he's posted on his Instagram account that are similar design that look really nice. But this one was even bigger than, I think his most recent one that he posted was like a round table, and this one was like a full length, like probably 8 or 9 foot slab that went on top of this one. So that was really great.
So you can say he blacked that ash up.
Oh yeah, he blacked that ash. And speaking of black that ash, Danny at Upper Room Creations, he'd been doing a set of bottle openers that he had done, and these are, you know, kind of smaller handheld ones, and he had a reel of him flush trimming those ones, and I think he had on the caption like it's like the best part of like the project, you know, you get to like finally get it to its final shape or whatever. And I was like, that's the scariest part, especially when you got small little things that you're doing. I mean, he had all the proper stuff on where he had like a push block holding it, but like those little things on a push block or stuff that like, that still makes me a little bit nervous. My shop teacher in middle school made me very, very safety conscious around the router by scaring the crap out of me. Because he'd like, I think he told us like a story of like, well, one time someone like nicked their finger and it was just like an instant, and they had like 6 lines on their fingernail or something like that. So like that gave me like a healthy like respect for the router itself. So that's one of the machines that I definitely make sure I wear brown pants when I use. But yeah, after Danny's, I think that's about everything that I can think of that I've been watching and seeing here lately.
Summarize it in one word.
So this week's main topic is sandblasting, and that is something that both of us have done. Alex is doing a ton of it right now, and I actually about a month ago or so did a review on a sandblaster myself with my first toe into sandblasting. And so I had done a Vevor sandblaster, which is funny because Vevor is a tool manufacturer. They make tools for a whole bunch of different industries. And I had been looking for a sandblaster that would fit in my shop. And we talked about shops last week, but my shop is a very small shop. And so I don't have a lot of extra room for one. And I had looked at a couple of cabinets, and I was like, it's still really big and a lot of space. So I found Vevor, and they make a dental sandblaster. So it's actually what they use for dentures, and when they're like sandblasting it to make it smooth, so it feels like teeth and not just like the hard stuff that they do. And so I reached out to them and asked, hey, would you be interested in doing a review for a woodworker using it? And they were very interested. And so I had grabbed it, and it is an interesting tool. I will say I like it. There are a lot of things I don't like about it, though, too. But as far as sandblasting in general, and that tool, from my experience with it, one, it only does certain mediums. So that tool only goes up to, or you can't go any bigger than 120 grit. of your medium. The grains just don't go through the little pins. Ask me
Right.
how I know, because I didn't know that. It's not in the instructions. So then I had to sit there with an air hose and blow out everything to try and get it from the 80 grit that I was trying to use.
It's like removing a kidney stone.
Yep, pretty much. uh, and yeah, and then it's a glass covering that you look into, which is great, but on such a small unit, the blasting material hits that glass and it slowly starts etching it.
Oh.
So after I put about 30 hours or so of sandblasting burl chunks and stuff, I had a good like frosted glass. And they don't sell replacement glass. So
Ooh.
yeah, that really bothered me.
Is
So
is
actually,
that glass? Is it bolted on or is it like riveted in?
it's bolted on, so you can replace it, but
Okay.
you need like the right size, because it's not just like a square. It's square at one end and then diamond at the other end to go with the profile of the machine. Um, so I guess you could do, but then have just that overage, but it just is a big design flaw for me. They should at least, at the bare minimum, sell a removable protector, or like just a plastic film that
Right,
you can
right.
put on there, and they don't,
Yeah.
which I found was disheartening. Um, but yeah, but otherwise, other than those two things, so if you know going in that you can only use super fine grit, and that you need to get your own plastic covering to put on the glass, it's a great machine. I use it for little chunks of burl, and I really like it. And I only have a 4-gallon air compressor, a little California Air Tools compressor. And it does a good job with that. Like I was surprised I can get about 30 seconds or so of straight blasting before my presser even kicks on. Um,
Mm.
and then even with it kicked on, I won't lose like pressure for a full minute of sandblasting, which doesn't sound like all that long, but when you are sandblasting it in small pieces, it is
Yeah.
quite a bit of time. Um, so that was good. It got my foot in the door, and I want to do more sandblasting. I see a lot of uses for it, especially in the CNC world with doing 3D carves, where uh, like for Workbench Con, I did a Jurassic Park carved thing for Vetric.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And it took me like 5 hours to sand because it was all by hand. And the idea of sandblasting it would be so nice. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
do more things like that.
Have you only tried glass in that machine at this point?
Uh,
Or have you tried other blasting mediums?
I've only tried glass so far. It can do powders. I haven't done soda. Now you're using soda, right?
Yeah, I've been using soda is what I've been using
Okay.
my blasting setup.
And
And does that
I think you can do like
what
walnut shell and other type of blasting material too, right?
yeah, so when it comes to blasting media, you've got walnut shells, glass beads, soda, sand. I think silica is basically glass beads, but I think there's
Yes.
some because silica is a little bit closer to like the kind of stuff that they use on a lot of or no, maybe I'm thinking of the aluminum oxide because that's what they have in like some of the sandpaper.
Aluminum oxide is the
But
sandpaper stuff. Yeah, that's right.
okay, yeah. And I think there's some other. I'm sure there's even more blasting mediums that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
What? So how does the recovery system work for the blasting media? And that is there like a thing that it like funnels into and it just like keeps on recycling it, or do you have to like empty something into a container periodically?
So it has two containers that you fill up with stuff and with the blasting material. And then once you're blasting inside, you're inside the compartment, and there is a tray that your item sits on top. And the idea is once that fills up, you like scoop it out and put it back in. They do have a dust collector port on the back of it, so you could suck it up and have it sucking that way. I actually did do that with my dust collector. I had it on, but I did not reuse it. I just sucked it up because it was my normal dust collector and just had it go into my bin.
Gotcha.
Because with that, size unit in the amount I was doing, I bought a 10-pound bag of the medium, and I barely used a quarter of it after 30 hours of sandblasting. Like it
Mm.
doesn't take a lot with that machine, which is pretty impressive.
What PSI was your system running on,
90.
or what did you have it set? 90. Okay,
Yep. Yep. I pretty
gotcha.
much leave it at 90.
Gotcha. Let's see. I'm trying to think of any other stuff. And that one has it has like the built-in rubber gloves that you reach into to be able to
Yep.
handle the material, everything, right?
Yeah, and that is definitely a weak point of the machine because they are just kind of screwed into place so that you can replace the gloves if you want for different hand sizes. Because like the
Hmm.
gloves that they're big, the ones that come on it, like they're almost too big for my hands, and I have big hands. So I can't imagine somebody with small hands using those. You'd have to replace the gloves. But because of that, it is definitely a weak point if you don't screw them tight. The first time when I was doing the review, I was taking things apart and playing with it, and I didn't screw it really completely tight, and all of a sudden I had sand blasting right up at my face because it was coming
Yeah,
through
that's not fun.
the little cracks. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, that was a good thing I was using my PPE, so it didn't hit my eye. But
yeah, yeah. And are those how thick are those gloves? Are they kind of like the obviously they're probably thicker than like the nitrile gloves, but they're probably what are those like house cleaning like the yellow gloves? Or is it kind of like those
it's
or
similar
a
to
little bit
that. I would
thinner?
say they're even a little bit thicker. They're silicone for one, so they
Okay.
are a little bit thicker than that. But they're not like think of like heavy silicone. They're I'd say they're in between those yellow rubber gloves and a standard silicone glove, somewhere in between.
Okay.
So
Okay. And
which
then
is
have
good. It
you
makes them usable, but while still protecting your hands, obviously.
right, yeah. So then have you looked into anything as of yet for how you want to handle the glass panel? Are you gonna try and replace it, or are you gonna try and like buff it out or something, or what's kind of
I
your plan with
yeah,
that?
I was going to I looked at some buffing things to see if I can buff it with a high like a automotive buffer to see if I can do that. So I'm going to try that first, and if that doesn't work, I'll look at the replacement glass level. Right now, it's not. It's just lightly frosted. It's not like it's stopping me from using it. Um,
Mhm.
but it is. I can see if as it keeps going, it's going to get to the point where I can't see. So
What what if now I'm just curious because you said that you can take it out, right?
yeah,
I'm curious if it gets like if it actually gets like bad. I wonder if you can take it out and just do like an epoxy pour on it because it'll fill in
that's
and
what
then
I
just
was
buff that.
thinking. That's what I was
Because
thinking.
I
I
don't,
was
yeah, because I was like, I don't think that like the epoxy wouldn't be as strong as the glass, but if you make it thick enough, you can. I'm sure you could buff it down and make it more like a sacrificial layer.
right. Or I could just, then put that plastic sheeting over it or something. Yeah, it is definitely something I've looked at. I had reached out to Vevor to see if they would send me a replacement, and they didn't. Um, but for the glass at least, because they apparently don't make it.
Yeah.
So um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I've been looking to see if there are other, and unfortunately, the machine isn't well used by woodworkers. So there's not a lot of people out there talking about the machine. So it's not like I can be like, hey,
Mhm.
what did you guys do? So yeah, so
Yeah,
it is
yeah, not
something
as many
I'm
forum posts.
right, right. So I'm trying to figure that out one still, and right now it's been kind of put to the wayside as I'm working on other projects currently.
Now I'm curious, would it be possible if you had like a metal mesh that you kind of like put close, kind of like how you've got like a set of bars or whatever, like in front of a window or something like that, where it's like obviously it's not going to stop everything, but it would at least slow stuff down and
Mm-hmm.
be the holes would be open enough that you could actually see through it enough that it wouldn't impede your vision.
Yeah, you got to think
'Cause
though
like,
about like that soda material, or even at that 220 grit. That's such a fine grit though that all you're doing is creating dust at you and in your shop, because that'll just go through that fine mesh very easily.
no, I meant like on top of the glass itself. So the
Oh, on
glass is still
top of the
in there,
glass.
and then putting
Yeah.
it like maybe like an inch in front or even like further in front close. I don't know how much workspace room that you have, but that would be on top of
Mm-hmm.
well, not on top of, but in front between the glass and the actual workspace itself. So then it's at least slowing it down a little
Yeah.
bit.
I was also thinking of trying to just use like the rattle can like spray shellac and see if I would just spray the glass too, if that would
Hmm.
help. Again, make it sacrificial, but it would also fill those voids like the epoxy would.
Oh yeah, yeah. I haven't I haven't really ventured into shellac, so I don't know what the clearness of the shellac actually is.
It's
If
clear.
it's
It
is
can,
it
once you get more levels, it can be a little yellowish, but mostly
okay?
it's clear.
Yeah, because I figured that it yellowed a little bit, but I was like, I don't know how translucent it is.
Hmm.
But
So, what have you been
yeah,
using for your blasting? Are you been using a soda blasting gun?
yeah. So I've been using a gun. So I went the other direction where instead of like an encased unit that is self-contained that the workpiece goes into, I bought a it's a gravity fed gun. So it looks kind of like a water gun. It's got a trigger on the front where it has the little button that activates the air pressure flowing through, and then there's a little reservoir on top that's blue that has like um, maybe like a 2 cups worth of media that you can put in there in order to spray. And that one, I think it's recommended around like 90-ish psi, which is about what you were saying for yours. Um, And what I had tried was I had went with the soda medium because it is water soluble. So if I make a mess or something like that, it can get, I can blow it away with a leaf blower and it'll get dissolved with water if I create a mess wherever. Because originally when I started using it, it was in the storage building where they put these pews when I was not working with them in place at the church because they had to get the floor refinished.
Hmm.
So we put them at a secondary site, and this was just like a metal building with like concrete floors. And so what I had done was I had used that um, to get the detail work. So some of the stuff on like the sides of the church pews where they have these like little like flower things and stuff on the sides, and they had a couple of um, routed out kind of contour shapes on the sides of the church pews that I knew would be a pain in the butt to hand sand. So what I did was I just sprayed those particular areas and then left the rest of the flat areas there. But I did look into I did a little bit of testing on how much media it would take me to use, and um, it it would have been nice to use sandblasting on all of the church pews on there, but with them being so large because they're like 10 feet long or something like that, getting an area to encapsulate and recycle the media um, was not possible for the church pews themselves. So it made it not economically viable to do like the whole church pew. So that's why I only did part of it. And I did sweep up some of the extra media that was like on the ground and stuff, but I got a lot of dust mixed in with that. I
Hmm.
did so what I did was I got a couple of 5-gallon buckets. So I filled the bucket with everything that I swept up. I kind of tried to pick out some of the big chunks of like hay and other grass and things like that that were in there. And then I took I have this like old roll of like screen. It's kind of the same screen that you would use for like a screen door. And I use that as kind of like my mesh to filter out the bigger particulates. So I did that, and I got down to the smaller stuff, but I didn't have a good way to separate out the media from the dust. So for that second go around um, of using it, like I had the PSI cranked up on that to like 120, and that's kind of what I've been using it because it forces it through a little bit faster.
Nice.
And also I also had to have the nozzle opened out a little bit more, because you would occasionally get one of those big chunks that made it through or whatever, and it's easier for that to get through, and more better for time savings, because if you get something lodged in there, you got to empty out the reservoir, unscrew it to get into the nozzle to get whatever's jammed inside of that mechanism that's actually mixing the soda media, or sorry, the blasting media and the air itself. So again, I only did the detail work on all those church pews, and I used like a 50-pound bag, so that basically fills a 5-gallon bucket. So I used that, and I recycled what I could. It was maybe like half of a 5-gallon bucket is what I was able to actually like recycle and actually was usable. And then what I'm doing right now is for the hymnal holders. They're only like 2 foot by like 6 inches, so they're much easier to work with. And what I actually did was I got a spray tent that is for like painting. It's just like the Wagner brand, which is basically like a 2-person tent, except for the front is just a mesh front, which has been a little bit of a problem for me with the rain that has came through. I probably should have just bought like a regular 2-person tent, because it's only like, I don't know, it was only be like $30 or $40 more. Because like I think the Wagner one that I got, which is a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be, I think it was only like 40 or 45 bucks. So like for an extra 30 or 40 bucks, getting a completely sealed off tent probably would have been worth it, because you get a much thicker tarp on the bottom, and you can actually close off from the outside and actually be safe from weather and everything like that. Because I have everything in there, and I got a bunch of just old milk jugs, and filled them with water for like weight in the corners, as well as some like old containers of cat litter, and that did present a little bit of an issue, because we had some windy days, and because that front portion of it is open, that mesh, you get a lot of wind that can just go in there and move stuff around. So I got some of the water got tipped over and kind of started dripping, and some of the cat litter like stuff got like popped over and mixed with that, and kind of made a little bit of a slew of stuff. But I just let it dry and then swept it up, and then I had cleaned stuff up every day at the end of the day. So this was in the morning that it had happened, so it was just fine. So I wasn't super worried about it. So to back up a little bit, I put my hymnal holder on top of like a 5-gallon bucket, and I'd be spraying on it, so that like some of the spray media goes in the bucket, and I mean, not a lot of it, but some of it, and it's up off the ground, so it's easier to work with. And I am wearing full length pants. I have some brunt shoes that I wear, and then I actually had it's like a winter overcoat, like a rain jacket that's like thicker to go over top. So it's like, it's summer, and I'm in this like black like coat, and then I've got my like full face respirator that I use. It's not one of the ones that like blows air, but it just has like a full face shield. And then I learned to put on over the ear protection, not for the sound, because it wasn't like super loud, but because of when that media blasts back, it would get in my ears.
Yeah.
Which is just a pain in the butt, which I can, it's water soluble. I can shower and get it out, but it takes a little while for that to actually dissolve in the water. And it would get in my hair and everything like that. And it's just like having sand in your hair, which is a big pain in the butt. So that's why I wore all of that stuff to kind of keep me protected. And then I did throw on some nitrile gloves just for like something to keep my hands from getting kind of like chapped and dry. Because honestly, because even though I'm running stuff at 120 psi and it's like going pretty hard, if I overspray and get it on my hand, like it'll sting a little bit, but it's bearable. Like it's not like cutting my skin or anything like that.
Right.
Because the soda media is not as abrasive as some of the other options that you have, because some of the other ones like could definitely hurt you if you're running at the high enough psi and certain grit levels. So I, after doing all of that spraying, after it got to like a lot of stuff on the ground, I just sweep it up, and that worked just fine, just sweeping it up off of the bottom of the tent. And I ran it through that same wire mesh, and it went through just fine because there was so much less stuff than was in that barn, that it went through that mesh super fast, and there was hardly anything in there. And again, there wasn't any like dust in there from the dusty barn environment when I was spraying the pews. So
Oh, okay.
there was not nearly as many of those contaminants. Now I've right now I'm on the second cycle of that blast media, so it's already been run through once, and now it'll be going through twice. So I'm gonna see how far I can get through with this soda media before it becomes not usable. Because I'm fairly new to sandblasting. Like, I'm no expert on it. I just have figured out a way that works for me, and the soda works pretty well for removing the finish off of the hardwoods, and not really getting too aggressive on the wood itself. If you let it dwell on one spot, you can tell certain areas where you have the pores where it'll kind of dig in just like a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you want to keep that. I try to keep it moving as best as I can, so that I don't like dwell on any of those spots and kind of get those deep ridges that can happen with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else that was noteworthy for that tent other than the fact that I should have gotten a regular tent. But yeah, it works just fine having a regular tent and just sweeping up off of the bottom of that. And when I'm actually done with it, I'll just blow it out with a leaf blower and pack it up and just call it good. So it'll be interesting to see if I use that finishing tent for anything else that I need to have outdoors, because generally I try not to leave anything outdoors just because I don't like to see any humidity changes. Like at the end of a session or whatever, like I put everything away because I make sure that there's no humidity in the line itself. So there's a couple of inline filters that I've put with mine, because if I was doing it inside where I've got humidity control, it wouldn't be quite as much of a issue. But being outside where the humidity is a lot higher, it definitely needs to filter out that humidity, because there's one that's like it's essentially a little valve that you can like empty out where it actually collects water. So it'll actually, it's kind of like if you were to do like the bleed valve on your air compressor where the water collects at the bottom, but if you do it quickly, it's going to be at the bottom. So it's kind of like that. And then the second one is like, it's got some of those, whatever those beads are that absorb the moisture, to keep it from getting too high of a humidity. So then that blasting media doesn't get clogged up, which I haven't had any issues with the blast media clogging up because of humidity. One issue that I have had, though, is the actual trigger mechanism on this, which I think all of these blast media guns are kind of the same, where it's kind of like that plunger, but that like plunger mechanism is external, and with all of that blasting stuff going on, there can be like little pieces of grit that can get in there, and it can stick and it can stay down. But fortunately, it's just got there's a nut that you undo to release that mechanism. You can clean it off and get it working again. So I've had to do that a couple of times now, but it's fine for what it is. If I was going to be doing more soda blasting, I would definitely upgrade from that gun to the brand Jegs, which is Jegs. That they have a lot of stuff, and they've got these like 250-pound reservoirs, and then the mechanism that's the actual trigger itself, it's like a blast gate essentially on the front, and it's controlled by a lever. And then you don't have to worry about refilling the blast media, because My I have basically the same size compressor that you do, where it's like just one of those generic pancake compressors. Mine's one from Harbor Freight, and I only get a limited amount of time that I can use that. But what I do is I refill my reservoir while I'm waiting for that to build the pressure back up. So I'm putting more blast media in there. So I'm scooping, filling that up, and then if I need to like sweep anything or prep any of the other things while it's refilling the compressor, I'm doing that, so I'm not like just sitting around and watching it. But if I were to do more of it, I would definitely get a compressor that could keep up with it a lot more, and then those bigger reservoir um, containers, which those are separate units. So those like reservoirs are like just for the blast media, and then you have to hook up your air compressor line to that, which is a separate expense. So you could, I think that like that system from Jegs is like, I think it's like 350 or $400. But if you're doing like a lot of sandblasting, that makes it worth it. But only if you actually have an air compressor that can keep up with it, which is probably
Right.
going to be a compressor that's going to be north of $200 or $300, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because I remember researching it a while ago, and I was like, yeah, you can spend a pretty penny on air compressors to get something with a lot more CFM behind it to keep up with that. Which, like you said, can, if you're only needing like the like 30-second stint, it works out great. But if you need more than that, like you're going to do a lot of waiting, so you got to have other stuff to do while you're waiting for the
Absolutely.
compressor to catch up, and if you need to refill your media and whatever.
Not to mention,
So
you don't
that's
want to
kind
do
of,
that much wear on a small compressor, as it's rebuilding over and
yeah,
over
yeah,
again.
and that's, yeah, because if that motor is on all the time, it's probably gonna overheat, and that's
Yeah.
why um, I would kind of time when I would sweep up stuff, as well as like get more of the hymnal holders, where it's like, oh, I don't want to get these all at once because I'm gonna have breaks in between these, so I might as well do that then, let it catch up, give it a minute to cool off, and then start again. So it's a lot slower than I would want it to be, but for the cost of this system, I mean, we're talking something that's like, what is it, like maybe 60 or $70 for the spray gun itself, another like $60 for an air compressor that's cheap, and then the blast media is like 60 or $70, and then that spray tent that I had is like $45 ish. So you're somewhere in that like what
200 to
150
300.
200 range.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in that range where it's like it's a complete setup, and you don't necessarily need all of that. Um, you can you can get away without a tent if you only are using a little bit and recycling it. And I actually have experimented with baking soda itself, and that does actually work in the spray gun. I mean, you don't want to use a lot of your own baking soda because it goes through it really fast because it's a very fine powder, but it does remove at a less aggressive rate than the blast media that I have, which is like more of like a salt or sugar kind of consistency when it comes to like the particulate size itself.
Right.
Whereas the baking soda that you get in the kitchen is more of it's almost a powder at that stage. But I mean, you can use it if you have a small project to remove some finish or, treat a live edge or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, after this, I mean, I don't plan on doing a whole lot of furniture refinishing, which is like a lot of where this stuff would shine. Um, and but I do see myself potentially using it for some future projects where you've got a little bit of like burl live edge that you actually want to keep,
Yep.
which that's a lot of the stuff that you had,
Yes, that's exactly what I was
was
doing.
that
Yep.
burl live edge.
Yep.
So, because for me, like when it comes to like just like a straight live edge where it's it's relatively flat, maybe a little bit angled. I mean, I'll use sanders for that and
Yeah.
do just fine,
Absolutely.
or like power carvers if you need like a smooth shape. But if you want like a true organic shape,
Or that really
and
spiky
that's
burl.
right, yeah, that spiky burl where it's like there's no way you're getting anything in there without
Hmm.
flattening everything. That's probably going to be your only option to get something like that to get at least a consistent texture on an
at
uneven
this,
surface like that.
especially at that price point, there are other options too. Like in regards to even blasting, there's ice blasting is another option you can do.
Oh, really?
Where it's a combination of liquid nitrogen and water, and it's same concept as instead of media, it's just ice, so that it does just melt away right away when it's gone and done.
Now you're making me think about Dippin' Dots. That's like the same thing.
Kind of around that idea. One of the big YouTubers, Cam from Blacktail, he did a whole video on ice blasting.
Really?
It was really interesting. It is not cost effective. I think the machine is like $4,000 to start. Yeah, I mean, you're talking, and you have to fill up with liquid nitrogen and all that other stuff. So like, it's quite a bit. But yeah, it's interesting. I did look, by the way, if you ever start doing big things again, for like your church pews, if you for some reason decide to do another church, you have
no.
Temu sells a pop-up car painting tent, which for $100, which would work just fine for that.
Well, I do actually have a carport that's gonna be. I'm gonna set it up for my router sled, and I have thought about that. Where I was like, okay, if I can pull it down close enough, I might be able to get that to work. But honestly, one thing that I've been thinking about, like, and again, this is only if I would get a job that's like as big as the one that I had with the church pews, is honestly looking at some of those laser removal things.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, like, I mean, other than, probably having like an air filter for fumes, like you could do that in place just about anywhere without any type of overspray. Because I think that
they're fiber lasers that do that.
Are they fiber lasers?
Yeah, I've been watching. I love those videos. Like, they're so satisfying to watch.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, I've definitely looked into some of those, and your price point's around $2,000 at entry level. But I've definitely looked at those because I've thought about there's a need for restoring furniture around here a lot, because a lot of people aren't getting into that. They're just building, and so I was like, oh, I wonder if I could add that to my repertoire. So yeah, it's an interesting concept.
Well, yeah, because if you've got a system that is in that $2,000 price point for like those nicer options that I was talking about with the stuff from Jegs, as well as like a nicer compressor, because you can easily get a compressor that's like, 500 to 1,000 pretty darn quickly. You can get some that are, $2,000 and up, depending on what kind of specs you want.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's like, yeah, for the thing, you can get that laser one for the same price point, and now you can do, you can probably tune it to just about any material, and I don't think you have to have the same level of requirement when it comes to like PPE of like all of the blast media that's like moving around. Like, you don't necessarily have to have, like, for lack of a better term, like a hazmat suit to keep yourself from getting coated in whatever it is that you're spraying.
Yeah, you just have to be careful of the eyes and eyes.
Yeah,
and mouth.
eyes and the fumes and stuff like that, especially if you're working with, metal and those kind of things. But you throw on whatever type of safety glasses that you need for lasers, and keep your body covered so that your skin isn't exposed. I don't know if those if anything bounces off those lasers, that you're gonna be getting some owies off of that. But I would imagine that overall you would probably come out ahead on that stuff, very much so. So honestly, I'll probably look into that if I ever do any more stuff in that vein at that capacity, which I hope not, but buying new stuff makes it enticing. So
there you go.
There's always a silver lining for that kind of stuff when you're always buying new things.
Well, as we wrap up here, I do have one bit of news / future event news. So for those who are listening, if you are going to the Texas Woodworking Fest, which is September 11th, 12th, and 13th, I will be there. I just bought my tickets. I'm super excited.
I am super jealous of you.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's going to be a good time.
It's going to be a great time, and especially because I am rooming with another podcast, specifically Sawdust Talk. Jesse and TJ and I all are sharing an Airbnb, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
Spending time with them, and yeah, because we the room blocks, because it's not in a hotel like it is with Workbench Con. So the room blocks of the hotel that's adjacent to the convention center are like $250 a night, and so for 4 nights you're talking $1,000. Or an Airbnb just down the road is $300 per person if you split it up. So it makes sense.
I will say, just make sure you know what you're getting, because so Malcolm was there at the Midwest Maker meetup, and he had gotten an Airbnb, and there was an encampment of people in tents across the street from him. And,
Oh no.
They witnessed a woman start a fire in her tent, take it outside of the tent, and then she put some pants on, and then
That's the order you do things.
and proceeded to throw the hairbrush into the fire. So just make sure that you're aware of your surroundings where you get your Airbnb, to make sure that you know what to expect.
Yeah, I did look up the area. It does look nice. So if you're going to the Texas Woodworking Fest, make sure you come track me down and say hi.
Awesome. Well, once again, you can find us at patreon.com/whatchamakinshow, and you can explore all of those fun tiers, and you can be a part of our community.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And remember that we're here always reminding you to...
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.